Welcome to Coffee, Eggs and Inspiration. It's a weekly show that goes out over YouTube and is a podcast over all of the major channels. And each week I get to sit with an inspiring person and listen to them tell their story and share it with you. This week is no different. I'm joined by Lee McQueen. Welcome, Lee.
Well, morning. Good morning. I've got my coffee. I haven't got my eggs, but I've definitely got my coffee.
I've got my coffee as well. I feel like a bit of a fraud. It's called Coffee, Eggs and Inspiration, but I never have eggs. Very seldom. I think I've had eggs in one, but we certainly have inspiration. So Lee is the 2008. Yeah, exactly. Lee is the 2008 winner of the Apprentice, the show with Lord Sugar, and a lifelong entrepreneur. Very interesting background. Started out in catering actually at Harrow School. Went into recruitment, did his time at Hayes and Capita. After the Apprentice, joined Lord Sugar's company, or their joint company, I suppose, McQueen, digital signage, and is now on the other side of that with three of his own companies, Raw Talent Agency, Phoenix, and Talent Hub, which is a sort of subdivision of Raw Talent Agency, all in the recruitment and talent development space. Also a podcaster with Love Sport Radio, diehard Tottenham fan, I believe.
That's switched all your viewers off now.
Well, at least we'll keep the Tottenham ones at least, yeah. Fantastic background, very full life. Lee, tell us a little bit about your background. You came from a slightly different place into the world of business. Tell us about that.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you, Craig, for that wonderful welcome. I think that the background for me, I'm very much around people, so I love listening to people's stories and understanding their backgrounds, their makeup, and what drives them. And I think my background really does drive me. It's no different. I grew up in northwest London. The end of the Central Line. So for all the people that come out of London, I'm at the South Ruislip, West Ruislip end of the Central Line. And I come from, like I say, quite a humble background. We grew up in a council house, me and my sister, with my mum and dad. My dad's a milkman, so he was a milkman for 42 years, really working class, and that really gave me that kind of that work ethic and that grounding. I worked a couple of paper rounds and a milk round myself when I was a kid to get the pocket money, and I always kind of had them core values that you have to work for what you want. If you want to achieve something, you need to work hard for it. And I was just saying to you off air before, I've never met a successful person that hasn't had a really strong work ethic running through their their behaviours or their skill set. And for me, we didn't have a bad childhood. My parents provided what they could. But, I was a kid that went to school with second-hand trainers on or high-tech trainers when everyone else was wearing like Nike and Reebok. I had the Woolworths version of the trainers or whatever it might be. For those of you old enough to remember Woolworths, of course. We got by and we had a good childhood. But for me, it was you worked hard for what you wanted to achieve.
Yeah, that point about work ethic is so true. I did my time during university working in bars and restaurants, and frankly, it wasn't my dream job at the time. But the experience of going through that and just learning what it is to be disciplined and do the hard yards, and no matter what the job is, do it to the best of your ability. I think that completely resonates with me, Lee.
Yeah, I totally agree, and I think when you look at life in general and people that are coming through, lots of change, especially in 2020, for example, the year that the planet has had. But when you look back at the core values are actually what makes us up, or is our makeup, and I think from probably thinking it through, just talking to you now, it really has driven my career actually. For where I actually now operate, and the businesses that I run are specific around behaviours and competencies around people, and actually I probably didn't realise at the time, but that was driving me when I was building my career.
Is that an epiphany? Did you just have a live epiphany on my podcast?
That's it. It's the coffee. Maybe I've had too much coffee.
Oh, I feel so proud. So you built on those strong values of work ethic and Capita, built a $30 million or pound business, I suppose, doing really well in your own right. And then The Apprentice happened. Tell us about that.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I had a fantastic job, a brilliant career at Capita. Like you mentioned, I built a business that was turning over 32 million quid, about 30 staff working for the business. I could walk into the company, oh yeah, Lee's here, and and we were doing well. We was having fun. We were a serious business, of course, and we were making some really good money and dealing with some excellent clients, but we was having fun along the way, and I think that's really important. And then one day, and this is a true story. One day I walked in, and on my desk there was a post-it note saying, "Fill this out." And it was an application form for The Apprentice. And I was like, really? And again, Craig, to be honest, I watched a couple of The Apprentices because I was a fan, but I never really thought that I would go on it. But one of my team, Steve, printed it out, and I was like, okay, I'll fill it out. So I filled out the application form for The Apprentice, and generally I didn't think anything of it. I just thought, we'll give it a go. Why not? What have you got to lose? And they come back. They come back to me about a week later to say, we want to see you for an interview. And all of a sudden it started to get a bit real. And you think, wow, do I actually want to leave Capita? I've got a fantastic job. I was earning lots of money. I didn't need to kind of go on anything other than a challenge. And again, I think that's probably another good milestone, is that if you continue to challenge yourself, if you continue to kind of really think, what's possible, what can I go and achieve, then you start to really achieve. And so I thought, why not? Yeah, let's see if I can break through the ceiling and see if I can get on. So what lots of people probably don't realize is you have a huge amount of interviews before you go on to The Apprentice. So I had 7. And the best part
is 20,000 applicants, right? 20,000 applicants for the show, something like that.
Spot on. I don't know how many they get now. They probably get more now, because we're going back a few years, unfortunately, showing my age. But this is 2008, right? So this is a long time ago. It was Series 4. So the series started on BBC 2. It done 2 series on BBC 2. Where Tim, Campbell, Michelle, Juby won respective, and then they got onto Series 3 where Simon Ambrose won, and then Series 4 that they were both on BBC 1. So we were kind of joining the I suppose the production or the actual show at a time where it was on the up. Obviously, clearly my series made it explode. That's what I keep telling myself.
Really?
But we'd had all the interviews, and it was my one of my major birthdays, my 30th birthday. And me and my girlfriend at the time, she's now my wife, we went to Kenya on safari. And do you remember the old Blackberries? Proper old Blackberries with a rollerball. Yeah. So I had one of them. Yeah. And it rang. Was in the this is a true story again. We was in the middle of a safari, so we were spotting lions and whatever. And my Blackberry rang. I was like, wow, I've got signal out here. Answered the call, and it was the production team for The Apprentice saying, we'd like you to have you on the show. You've made it to the top 16 if you'd want to come on. And it was a mad day, a phenomenal day. Everything going on. Turning 30 is a big landmark anyway, and then to get the call to say that we want you on, I thought, wow, I've got to accept the challenge and go on the show.
Well, for those of you who may be watching or listening from outside the UK, the Apprentice show is a BBC show. I think it was BBC in those days as well. Yeah, a big show, sort of a I suppose a elongated and slightly tortuous recruitment exercise or series of interviews that leads to a winner, which of course in 2008 was you, Lee, and that comes with a grant. I think it was £100,000 back then, and the opportunity to work with Lord Sugar, Alan Sugar. Yeah. And you, of course, won. I remember watching it, by the way. I remember watching it. I was in the UK, and I was learning things from you back then about, God, this guy's, he's really confident and sparky, and so much energy, and a deserved winner. And that took you into Amscreen and the opportunity to work with Lord Sugar. How was that?
It was phenomenal, and just touch on the point you just mentioned there. It's interesting you said about I come across so confident, because there's sometimes it's okay to kind of question yourself. I question myself a lot. You know, I walked into a room in the house, actually in the top 16, and there's people that are barristers, they've got business masters, they've got degree, you know, they're very, very intelligent, brilliant people. And I've walked in with like a couple of GCSEs, and you know, the working background is probably one of the reasons why I was chosen, to be fair. And sometimes I look at that and think, you know, should I be here? Am I good enough to be here? But, you know, so it's really interesting to hear you say that, you know, I come across confident, because actually it's okay still to question yourself, be nervous sometimes about doing certain things, because actually for me, that's what keeps you sharp. That's what keeps you on your game, if that makes sense. So my first day, famously, I called in sick. I mean, you couldn't make this up. But I actually got food poisoning, and I couldn't make the actual first day. And there was paparazzi outside the building where I was meant to be going to work, and obviously I didn't turn up, so they were like speculating where I am. But you know, it was sorted with Lord Sugar, so it's not a major problem. I went into the boardroom when we finally started work. I went into the boardroom, and Lord Sugar said, "This is Simon Sugar, which is obviously Lord Sugar's son." He said, "You're going to be starting a business called McQueen from scratch." What a phenomenal opportunity! Sorry about that. What a phenomenal opportunity to be able to go into, work alongside Lord Sugar, arguably the UK's best entrepreneur over the last kind of 40, 50 years, and then work with his son and set up a business from scratch, and get paid a lot of money doing it. It was a phenomenal experience, Craig.
And that was the end of Capital, the start of MScreen, and obviously quite a lot of notoriety that came with it.
Yeah,
but that took you on to bigger and better things. Your career has only progressed since then. You've now got 3 businesses of your own. Tell us about the journey and what's caused you to flip and take that next step.
Yeah, it was probably one of the toughest decisions. We'd spent a lot of time building the MScreen business from scratch. Within 7 months, we signed a deal with BP, which was a huge deal for us, because the whole digital signage business was about not only selling the advertising and the marketing side of the business, but also to be able to make sure that we had the stores or the places that we could actually put the screens in the first place to get the footfall. So I'd never worked in digital media and digital signage before, so to learn all of that whilst operating and setting a business up was phenomenal. So it was for just under 3 years, so best part of 2.5 years or so, we built that company, which is still going, and they're doing brilliantly. But for me, Craig, my passion is people. My passion was and still is recruitment. It is about developing people, understanding who they are. I've got fascination with psychology, around business psychology and how people interact. So for me, I was always going to go and set my own company up. Albeit it was quite late in terms of I was in my 30s now at this point, but I always wanted to do it and be my own boss. So 9.5 years ago, I set up a business called Raw Talent, which basically was a bit of a disruptor. The business focuses on entry level early careers, and at the time the market was very rich around graduates. So it was if I said to you or any of the viewers graduate recruitment, you'd immediately know what I mean. But what that meant was that businesses and organisations around the world were still hiring people based on a 2.2 or 2.1 or a degree. And actually, I felt that being my background, I felt that there's a huge amount of people that can offer something phenomenal that haven't got a degree or haven't got that educational background. And it also coincided at the time with apprenticeships becoming a little bit more, can I use the word sexy, rather than kind of, if you do an apprenticeship, it's kind of a low level kind of woodwork job, when actually, apprenticeships now can be done in hundreds of ranges of different sectors. So what we did is we ripped up the CV, Craig, and we said to our clients and we said to people, look, we're not going to be hiring based on CV. We're going to be hiring based on behaviours and competencies. And what we did is we created a recruitment business that was different. And it was different because we didn't hire based on that piece of paper. We hired based on you. And we got key competencies, key behaviours, understanding who you the individuals are. And then we'd run giant assessment centres that will enable our clients to see the real people that they were hiring. That was the premise of Raw Talent. and I suppose that spins into the business, the SaaS business now that I'm currently running. We're building now, called Phoenix 51, and that business is about to go for a rebrand, like literally next week. And what we did is, because we're assessing and because we're working with global companies. So the raw talent business has taken us all over the world, Singapore to Los Angeles to Texas to mainland Europe. But all of the assessment that we were doing, all the data, all the brilliant analytics that they're bringing in, we couldn't reuse because it's all paper based. So about 3 years ago, I decided to, stupidly or brilliantly, I suppose everybody will make their own mind up, but I invested about £250,000 into building our own digital platform that digitalizes the people assessment process. So to put that into context, observing, watching, seeing, writing things down and scoring is majority of the time done on pen and paper and a traditional method. We've digitalized all of that process. So now when you're interviewing somebody one-to-one, or when you're running a people assessment or group assessment, you can now do that digitally and use that rich data, all that analytics, to be able to make better considered decisions. And that's ultimately what our SaaS platform does now.
You open a really interesting discussion here, I guess, around the whole concept of qualifications. I mean, what are they, and what makes a candidate suitable to do a job? I do a lot of recruiting myself at Google, and certainly my experience is that the university of life is the very big, and understanding somebody's background, the experiences, the challenges that they've been through, that they've set themselves, perhaps. Give me somebody who's been sculpted by the contours of a really hard life, but shown the persistence to get there any day of the week. That's not something that you can learn in the classroom. And I don't mean to diminish the value of university qualifications. I have one myself, but it's certainly not the be-all and end-all anymore, is it? And you talk a lot about, there's a real thesis underneath your businesses, which is, what is the qualification? What are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, absolutely agree. And I think that, again, I'm not being detrimental either to education. I didn't have a good one, and that's probably one of my biggest regrets. Again, I talked right at the beginning of our meeting around what drives individuals and what drives me. And my dad being working class and growing up in a council house drives me, but also that driver underneath me, what lights me up, is to try and understand people, to get the best out of individuals. We often in the world, we're so busy, there's so much little time. We need 26, 27 hours in a day rather than the measly 24 that we get. We need more time, and actually sometimes we just carry on doing what we've always done. Hiring from a piece of paper, looking at the unqualified interviews, and for me that just is crazy, Craig. If you think about it, people are the most important asset in anybody's business, whether or not you're a startup individual, a startup company, and you're going to scale up, or you're a multi-billion-dollar organization like Google. If you don't have good people in your business, you don't really have a business. And then so why would we leave that hiring decisions and then personalities and their behaviors and understanding the real essence of that individual coming in? Do they fit culturally? Do they fit with the values of the organization? Why would we not probe that? Why wouldn't we understand that? So do you understand what I mean? So for me, and I'm getting a little bit on my soapbox a bit, but it's hugely passionate to me, because I can't understand why we wouldn't do that level of due diligence before hiring or before promoting. I've seen over the last kind of 20 years of recruitment, in recruitment, you see a lot of things. But certainly over the last 10 years since I started Raw Talent and been on this journey, this people journey, I've seen a lot of companies around the world that will still use a gut feel to hire, and that's great. What we're trying to do is just wrap some science around that as well, to say, look, make your decisions, but have you considered this as well?
Yeah, I totally agree. And talent is evenly spread amongst humanity. Opportunity isn't, and you've got to tap into that talent. And your businesses, Phoenix and Raw Talent Agency, I think you said Phoenix 51, right? I'll link them below anyway.
Yeah,
Great
sure.
fun.
It's going for a rebrand, so.
Fantastic. I'll leave you with the last word, Lee. My son, 18 years old, Jake, he's going from school to university, as are a generation of others, I think 500,000 in the UK alone. Others are perhaps at a turning point in their career, either voluntary or otherwise. What advice would you have for them?
It's a brilliant question. I mean, depending on Jake and the other 500,000 people that are going through exactly what he's doing, depending on what they want to do and what they want to achieve. I personally, I missed out on university, and I think that I will definitely be, I've got 3 girls. I spoke to you earlier. I've got three daughters, and they're not going to university yet, but I've got them years to come. So I'm looking forward to that a little bit. My advice would be to follow what you want to do. It's really important. The amount of people that we've placed through Raw Talent Academy that have come out of university with a law degree, and we say, why aren't you going for a role in law? I didn't really want to do it. My parents just told me to do it. And it's kind of like, what is it that you really want to do? Go after a degree, or go after the learning and the education or the work experience that is really going to resonate with the career that you want to have. And I appreciate, as an 18-year-old or a 20-year-old or people that are graduating, you don't really know what you want to do, but to have some sort of a plan, to actually map out. This is an older man now talking, rather than kind of from a professional perspective, but time goes so fast. If you can have some sort of plan as to this is where you want to be, or this is how you want to live your life, go live it. Because a good friend of mine, Jason Vale, will say, if we're lucky, this is a 90-year holiday. You've got to enjoy the holiday whilst you're here, and follow where you want to go and make it happen.
90-year holiday. That's a great note to end on. I love that. I love that metaphor. Lee McQueen, you're an inspiration. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having me, Craig. Appreciate it.